2 seconds, 3 seconds, we go live on stream. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Facebook and YouTube for today's this afternoon edition of CovInspiration with Dayo Israel. My guest this afternoon is a special advisor to His Excellency the Governor of Lagos, Mr. Hon Abisola Olusanya. Honorable Special Advisor on Agriculture supports the work of Honorable Commissioner for Agriculture in the Ministry of Agriculture. And she's an amazing woman with a prior career in the private sector before transitioning to the public sector. Thank you so much for our Special Advisor for joining the show today.
Thank you, Dayo. Thank you for having me.
I'm happy that finally we were able to overcome these internet limitations that were going to happen to us yesterday.
Very true.
Absolutely.
I guess, like I said, the God of Instagram just didn't want us to talk yesterday. So
I'm happy we're doing it right now. So, Special Advisor, can you tell us about yourself, your background? You're an Ikorodu girl, or woman, a lady, or princess, who went to Queen's College, Lagos, and what a wonder.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Ikorodu. I attended St. Margaret Primary School, nursery and primary school in Ebute, Ikorodu. From there to Queen's College, Yaba. I think that was actually one of the best times of my life, because when I think back to the kind of friends, the kind of associations that I have made, I think Queen's College would always be one of the most solid foundations I had. Then from Queen's College to
were you a student in QC, or were you a boarding student?
No, I was a boarder from day one. Obi house. New house.
So did any senior ever tell you to kneel down there?
Well, I was no, not at all. You know, we had some slang in Queen's College. Hey, is she your chonko or not your chonko and stuff like that. So I used to suck up to a lot of seniors so that I don't get.
So you were sheltered.
Not at all. Sorry.
You were sheltered.
So that was back then. I was what?
You were sheltered to a level by your seniors. You were protected.
To a level. Yes, I was protected to some level. I mean, Queen's College was just fantastic. And then from Queen's College to University of Lagos, I studied architecture. I had a BS in architecture to have my master's because I felt like architecture was for me, and I felt like I needed to explore and see what else would come up. And one of the reasons was because I felt I'm not creative enough, or I don't have it as easy as in terms of just conceptualizing. So I felt like, okay, you know what, I think I need to try something else. Maybe this is not my calling. And then I decided to like, okay, you know what, after NYSC.
So in the first instance, sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry?
In the first instance, sorry to interrupt you. In the first instance, was studying agriculture what JAM gave you? Was it that JAM gave you architecture, or you wanted it?
No, I wanted architecture. So it was a game of, so it was actually between my mom and my dad. My dad felt like I was very good in creative art. So he felt like, okay, you just hone your skills and, you know, move into architecture as a career path. And my mom wanted me to study medicine, and obviously medicine was never a choice for me in the first place because I hated the sight of blood. So I think it only just made sense. And I think the thing that also kind of gave my dad that idea was from Queen's College. You know, when you have your guidance and counselor, and you know they already try to track the kind of path you should go. This is your skill set. So I guess that was it for me. I don't automatically went to architecture, and in a way, not in a way, I actually enjoyed it. And so now, I mean, we have a WhatsApp group, and I mean, it's always very interactive, funny. it can be very that's good. You know, that's the thing. But overall, I think that Unilag also was actually a very good place. The kind of people I met, I still am in contact with. I think it's been phenomenal. So from studying architecture in Unilag, I went straight for my NYC at Niger State, Minna, where I worked briefly with back then it was Oceanic Bank for 9 months. And then immediately after that, I came back to Lagos and then decided for my MBA at Lagos Business. So that was general management. So I believe that the idea was for me to be able to diversify and get into a field I felt was now the pathway I wanted to travel. The truth of the matter is, I think back then, sometimes till now, I struggle with okay, what exactly is my purpose, what is my calling, what am I good at, what do I think if I get into it, I'll do very well. So I guess those were the kind of thoughts I had at the back of my mind going into an MBA and thinking that along the line I'll find something that will be suitable for me and reflective of my personality. So getting into Lagos Business School, doing the MBA for 2 years, and then Olam came calling, Dangote came calling.
Wow.
Olam came first, and I mean, I just went straight to Ghana, and I was in Ghana.
So you were entered into your new role. You were entered into Olam. You were entered into Olam.
Yes.
Wow.
So Olam recruited us, 3 of us. Actually, we were 6 in number, 3 for Nigerian Olam, and 3 for Olam Ghana. So I opted and left for Ghana, and I mean, I was there for 8 years till last year before taking up this appointment.
Wow.
Yes.
And what were some of your achievements at Olam that you can share with us?
Okay, I think at Olam, so going into Olam, I started off as a West African management trainee, where we had to learn for like I think it was about 9 months to 1 year. We had to learn about the various businesses across the entire group. So from exports businesses to manufacturing, cashew business, sesame, rice and sugar business, tomato paste business, biscuits business, wheat business. And the intricacies of each business was completely different. So imagine having to learn all of that, know how the system worked back then in Ghana and West Africa as a whole. So in a way, it was very educating. And I think along the line, I wanted to be in the rice business. And I think in a very short space of time, I was promoted to regional managers. And then from there to expanding the geographical terrain that I was handling till I started like handling about 70% of the geographical terrain of Ghana for the entire business. And I think along the line, I won several awards, Operations Manager of the Year, from there to also winning the Global Award for Shared Values. That was straight from the CEO himself, Mr. Sunny Verghese in Singapore. And then also to being a part of the team for Best Business, which was the Ghana business. So I think along the years, I was able to prove myself in Olam, even though a lot of times too, I doubted what I was doing, but I guess tenacity, perseverance, and hard work just pays off. So I would say that, those were good times as well. But more importantly, I think the main achievement for me would be the kind of friends, the kind of relationships I built. Moving into Ghana, being a Nigerian, you would always have this fear, especially going in for business, that you will not be well accepted. And that was the mindset, and that was what some other people faced, but I didn't face any of that. And I think it had to do with the way I kind of related with people in markets and stuff. So there was no place I would go to in Ghana. There is no market. There is nowhere. And people know my name. As soon as I get in there, I change the dynamics of the entire conversation. And it was just a total changed for me, looking at the fact that I used to think of myself as an introvert. But Olam brought out the extrovert in me. I became talkative. I became too playful, so it just kind of did a 360 degree to my personality, which I believe in a way serves me very well till date. So I think
So,
for me, that would actually be one of the great things that I got out of
so let me
it.
take you
And
into
for me,
Lagos. So in 1 year,
in Olam.
almost 1 year in Lagos, almost 1 year in Lagos government, what has that done to you?
Sorry? You have to repeat the question.
Almost 1 year in Lagos government, what has that done to you? How does that feel transitioning into public sector?
Christ. To be honest with you, sometimes I still ask myself, oh my God, Bisola, did you really make the right choice? But I think it's a wonderful privilege serving. Trust me, I think coming from the private sector and then having lived in Ghana for that long and coming back to Lagos, obviously it was a jolt to my entire system. It took me months to be able to adjust to, being in Lagos, facing the hectic traffic, the pace of life. And then from private sector where there's a certain way things are done, I mean, everything is just electronic email and all of those things. And then moving to a file-based public system where everything is done on paper. Even the first day I saw a file and it was brought to my desk, I said, sorry, I don't understand, what is this? And they said, this is, I said, no, I'm sorry, can't you just send mails and like get this over with? I said, no, you have to send this, they now gave me a sheet of paper that had abbreviated. Like I had to learn all of this. It took a while, and I think even now I'm still learning. Trust me, I don't think you can learn everything about public service in 1 day, in 1 year, it will take years. But I think I'm used to the pace of working. And I think a misconception a lot of us have and still have is that public sector work is easy. Trust me. With all my years of working in Olam, where I used to think I used to work myself to the bone, public sector, Lagos State public sector work is harder. I don't think I have ever worked this hard in my life before. Sometimes we don't leave office till 10. I'm like, God, why are we still here? What are we still doing here? It's just hard to fathom because looking from the outside, you always think, oh, what are they doing? The work is easy. Like, what's there? But being there now, I can tell you for free, this is hard work. I have never worked this hard in my life. And then when you now talk about this COVID-19 palliative efforts that we did for 5 weeks straight, day in, day out, Monday to Sunday, no rest in between. We closed 10. In fact, we even closed early by closing at 10. Some of the Ministry of Agric officials will be there till 12 midnight, 1. Some sleep over. It was backbreaking. And I'm like, wow, is this what it takes to actually be in government? So you can imagine if little me, I'm complaining like this, then imagine someone like Mr. Governor that has to receive phone calls, be here, be there, be at this meeting. I just don't know how he copes. But public sector work is backbreaking.
So 2 things that came out of that for me. First is I would like to touch a point on the 3 things that you've learned in this so far that young people who desire to go into public service need to understand. I faced the same experience. Before I got into my perception before I got into super was that things were, government job. As a matter of fact, we did a lot of work during the election.
Yes.
So my thought was after the election, we can calm down and things will be easier and stuff after the election. I had no idea that running the government was more intensive than actually during the election.
I'm telling you.
It's like you said, we don't at 10 o'clock in the evening, and then the next day, and even the weekends are included, even before COVID.
Even before COVID, exactly.
We're doing school feeding program. We're doing a co-excel. We're doing like 10 different projects together. We're taking teachers recruitment. We're doing different activities at the same time. I can understand. So I want you to talk about the three things that you think that young people that want to go into public service need to be aware of. That's number one. And secondly, also, now that you're in public service, what keeps you going? What drives you in the face of all the pressure? But importantly, what are the three things that young people who are interested in going into public service need to know? Because everybody thinks that it's rosy when from government without understanding the intensity of the sacrifice that people have to make.
Okay, so for me, the three things I would advise would be number one, never assume you are better than the next person. Never assume that you're more knowledgeable because you're coming from private sector to public sector. Trust me, some of the most intelligent people I have met in my short career span actually now being in the public sector. When you hear some people speak, when you see some of the materials that you come across in the public sector, you will be amazed. So going in with that perception of, hey, I'm the new kid on the block, I'm the intelligent one here, civil servants, what do they know? Hey, trust me, they know a lot more because the exposure they have and the exposure they get bases the amount of proposals that come to them, the kind of trainings they go for. It just goes to show you that they know so much more, and it's up to us coming in to try to see how we can leverage and get some of that exposure as quickly as we can. Secondly is public sector work is not a walk in the park. That was the impression I had at first, and I'm sorry to say I've taken back that kind of perception. It's not a walk in the park, it's actually hard work. And I think especially with Lagos, where there's a new problem every day to be solved, as you're solving one thing, something else is cropping up. So you never get to have that break or that rest to say, hey, I've done this, done and dusted, and that's it. There's always something new to do every day. So you have to be well prepared. You have to take good care of your health. So that's very critical. Then the third one is the assumption that you're coming into government to make money. I think it's a wrong notion. You're coming into the public sector to serve, and in serving, yes, you can possibly make inroads and leverage on that. But to come in with that person that, oh, this is what I'm here for, I think a lot of us have to take that away from our mindset. We are here to serve. And I think it is indeed a privilege to serve. Like I said, the kind of people that I have met, the kind of people I have come across, they are some of the most brilliant people that I have seen. And for me, it's more about do the work now such that even after you leave office, you can still meet with these people and do business. You can do a lot more than what you think you're going to get in this short space of time. So for me, those would be some of the three things that I would say that I can advise or give as an advice to anyone. Then your second question had to do with, you have to remind me, Dayo, I'm very sorry.
Sorry, what keeps you going in the face of the pressure? I think I lost you on Instagram, so I'm going to try to get you back on Instagram.
Yes, I think I lost you too.
Okay, so are you still live so I can add you back? Oh, yes, I see you live. So I'm trying to connect back to you.
Yes, I'm still live.
I just joined.
I think I lost you on Instagram.
Okay.
Yes, I think I lost you.
So please accept the request. Okay, I just sent you a request. Excellent. Can you confirm you've seen the request?
Okay.
Perfect. I see you now, and you are connected.
Hold on. Okay. Yes. So I was referring to the second question. The first was only three advice that you give any young person coming into the public sector. What keeps me going? Okay, I think what keeps me going right now is I can go back to the point where I said earlier that I'm trying to understand or find what my purpose is what the vision for my life is, I think to myself that okay, ways have kind of aligned themselves for me to get to this point. There's obviously a power behind it, and I believe that looking at the journey so far, there's a reason for it. So that means, in a way, the purpose is sort of tied to where I find myself now. So still trying to pinpoint what that purpose is exactly keeps me going, because I can never tell whether it is this small project, this big project, this interministerial project, or what it is. I never can tell whether, okay, it is at this point that I'll be able to say, okay, yes, I think I've sort of really identified what the vision for my life is and what the purpose for my life is. So that keeps me going. Then for the fact that I know that what I'm doing also is helping people, is putting a smile on people's faces, that is also something that keeps me going. And I know that no matter how little contribution is, it's kind of, at least it's on a positive note. So I know that, okay, in my own little way, I'm making a difference. You know, when we complain and say, oh, the government is not effective, this is this, that is that, it's easy for us to pinpoint or to be critical of the government. But when you are now in it yourself, you see the nitty gritty of what it entails to actually be in government, you begin to appreciate it more. And we cannot keep complaining if we don't have the wherewithal to say, okay, I will come into it and try to make a difference, no matter how little. So I think just being a part of the process and having that awareness of what is going on, and to be able to tell people when they are saying some things that are contrary, but you come with the perspective of, okay, I'm part of it and I know what is going on. So let me put things in better perspective for you. So you have more people now beginning to understand some of the action that we take. So in a way, it kind of, drives me to say, okay, yes, I think I'm, at least even if it's a group of 50 people or 100 people that I belong to as maybe a class group or something, I can better explain some things to them. And then that understanding now percolates, because they will move on to other groups and be able to explain to other people as well, to say, no, this is not why this step was taken, it's for this reason. And, so in a way, you just being in government and, having that inner awareness of how things work and being able to tell other people, and other people can tell other people, it brings that sort of understanding to a larger group of people, and it all started with me. So in a way, that kind of helps as well.
Excellent. So to policy conversation.
Bear with me. My question is, how critical is agriculture to making Lagos a 21st century mega city, in particular with what you've seen over this COVID palliative period, and how you see that Agric is becoming critical?
Yes.
Everybody's talking about food.
Agric is becoming critical. Everybody's talking about food.
Yes. So that, in a way, I kind of lost your question at the very beginning. I think the connectivity was kind of poor. So the only thing I heard you say was regards to the palliative.
What I said was, how critical is agriculture to the vision of making Lagos the 21st century mega city?
Okay, so I think in terms of the criticality of how Lagos is, Dayo, I've lost you again on Instagram.
Let me try to go live and see if you would join me, if that would change anything. I don't know why they can't do that. Okay, but let's keep talking because people are watching us from YouTube. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And,
so I think the criticality of.
Yes, I'm with you.
So I think the criticality of how of how Agric features in the making Lagos a 21st century economy is, first and foremost, I hope a lot of people understand that we have 6 pillars for Lagos State under the leadership of Mr. Babajide Olusonya, and making Lagos a 21st century is the 4th pillar, under which Agric features. I think Agric has always been looked at as a very uncool sector, maybe a sector made up of mostly illiterates, farmers, and just that general perception of, okay, this is not where I want to find myself. But with what has happened with the COVID-19 pandemic, the lockdown, no one shouted for, hey, I need to buy new clothes, or I need to get clothes, or I need to stock up on clothes. Okay.
Madam Social Advisor, let me interrupt you. I am currently now live. Can you try to join my live on Instagram as you keep speaking?
I'm trying to actually.
Yes,
I'm trying to join you live right now.
Yes, okay. So if you end your live, then I don't mean end your live.
Yes, I've ended my live and I'm trying to. Yes. I didn't say live, I said live. Yeah. So I'm back on and I've sent you a request.
I see you now. Yes, I see you now. Yes, okay. Excellent. So you were saying, you were talking about the critical importance of agriculture in making Lagos a 21st century mega city.
Yes. So, like I said, agriculture features under the fourth pillar. And like I said, I think during this lockdown, we've seen that no one is saying I need to stock up on food. No one is saying I need to stock up on clothes, or I need to build a new house or buy a new house or stuff like that. What everyone was hammering on was, hey, we need food. So in a way, it just goes to show you how important the food security of Lagos is to Lagosians as a whole. And I think this is where agriculture features. Like I said, agriculture has always been looked at as a very uncool sector. It's always been looked at as not being forward thinking. There's not much innovation or technology in that regard. And I think it falls. I think it's just that we have chosen not to we have just chosen not to include as much technology as we can in agriculture in Nigeria and in Lagos. But I think that narrative is beginning to change under the administration of Mr. Babajide Olusanya. So it does go to show you that in terms of how agriculture will play a role going forward, it's critical. Currently, it's less than about 2% of the budget, year 2020, but I believe things are changing also with that regard. We are trying to invest in a food reserve system. We are trying to invest in food production centers. We are still continuing with our investments in the Immortal Rice Mill. And we're doing actually a lot more than what people would expect. And I think it's just a matter of time before we begin to see the manifestation of some of these ideas. I keep losing you on Instagram.
Yes, one of the challenges with agriculture in Lagos is that we don't have agric lands. We really don't have enough or sufficient agric land. What is your office doing in that regard? And how are we ensuring that we have people want to farm in Lagos can actually, I know pig farming is prominent in Lagos. How are we dealing with that?
Okay, so with regards to agric lands, yes, Lagos, I think it's not just agric lands. I mean, Lagos is one of the smallest states in Nigeria with just about 3,577 square kilometers of land mass. So it's really small. So automatically, it makes sense that agric land would also be a very small portion of that. But I think if you look at a country like Israel, which is also very small, you would see that at the end of the day, Israel is still able to feed its entire population and export. So it's just a function of looking at what Israel is doing differently that we can also adopt. And I believe some states, some companies have adopted Israeli technology, but it's just a matter of time before we also have to say, hey, this is the way forward now. We shouldn't be looking at agric anymore as something relegated to other states in Nigeria, and all we have to do as a state is just to procure the food. No. With the border closures state-wise, I mean, it only goes to show you how important it is for us to be food secure, for us to grow our own food and stuff like that. So I believe that we'll be seeing a lot more technology imbibed in the way we work. And Agric lands especially, it has more to do. It's not just about the size of the land mass now. What we should actually be talking about should be yields. Overall in Nigeria, the average yield per hectare of any food item is actually one of the lowest in the world. So it goes to show you that it's not so much about the land mass you have. You can have as much land as God knows what. But if your yields are not commensurate, then it just goes to show how ineffective your agricultural practices are in the first place. So what we should be talking about now should be how can we increase our yield per hectareage, as opposed to saying we just need more land for the sake of needing more land. So in Lagos State, what we should be looking at is investing in the technologies that would help us to effectively use up all the land we have, but still be able to say, hey, we are able to have this harvest of food, which is commensurate to what maybe you'll get in states of the land mass of, let's say, Niger, for instance. Niger has a very large land mass. So even if Lagos is one of the smallest, the goal now should be, with my very small land mass in Lagos, I should still be able to produce as much food as what a state like Niger State should produce. So I think that should be the goal, and not just about the agric lands that we have in Lagos. So now the key is yield per hectare as opposed to just having the land mass.
Thank you. My next question is, are there financing for farmers in Lagos?
Are there what?
Financing opportunity. Are there investment opportunity or funding for would-be farmers and young farmers in Lagos?
Yes, obviously there are a lot of opportunities. So when you say investing opportunities or opportunities, for me, what I would say is it so much as investing opportunities, or first things first, if we talk about the farmers that exist already, we should be looking at, okay, do they even have the financial muscle to be able to sustain their businesses? So for already existing farmers, the key is, yes, we have lots of loans that can be tapped into, lots of financial backbone from the federal government that can be tapped into. We have the Anchor Borrowers Program, ABP. We have the Commercial Agri Credit Scheme. We have AADS. I mean, there are so many initiatives that the federal government has brought to the fore for farmers to tap into for funding, such that they can carry on with their business and even increase the scale of their business going forward. And what the Lagos State government is doing with the Ministry of Agriculture is try to get those farmers to be able to access such funds, which would help to increase the food security of Lagos. Then in terms of investment opportunities, I think there is opportunity in every sector, in every area. Even the Bible says, whatever your hand findeth to do, do it well. There's profit in it. So I believe there are lots of investment opportunities in agriculture. And what the pandemic has also brought to the fore is that now that you have other sectors, especially services, the service sector, possibly cutting down on overheads, cutting down on the workforce. Agriculture is that one sector that can accommodate as many people as would want to be in it. Agriculture does not have a threshold to say, hey, this is the number of people that I can accept, or this is the number of people that can be in the sector. Agriculture is unending because there's always so many things you can do with regards to agriculture. So there's nothing you see in your pantry, in your store, that does not have an agricultural raw material in it. So it goes to tell you that agriculture is an unending supply chain sector, if I may put it that way. So the opportunities are vast. And if I look at the agricultural value chains, where Lagos has comparative advantage, we'll talk about the vegetables value chain, the poultry value chain, the fisheries value chain, the piggery value chain, even the rice value chain, looking at Immortal, which will fall under production, and the red meat value chain. So along chains, these are the areas where Lagos has comparative advantage and which anyone in Lagos can safely invest in for future profits.
Talk about women in agricultural leadership. So, for example, you're a commissioner for, you're a special advisor on agriculture in Lagos. Your woman now at the forefront of development in Lagos. Do you think that we have enough women at the policy making level for agri development, agribusiness, and food security in Africa, and having more women at the helm make more impact would lead to better impact and better results?
Okay, so the truth of the matter is this, it's amazing that when we even talk about agriculture, so let's not even start with leadership, but when you talk about the population, if you look at gender in agriculture, women actually feature far ahead of men in agriculture, especially smallholder farmers, not just in Lagos, but in Nigeria as a whole. So if you, let's say, go to the north, you have more women in farming than men. It's only natural because they have more wives, therefore more kids, so they all go to the farm and stuff like that. So at the smallholder level, you have more women than men. Then at the leadership level, I don't think agriculture is so much about, oh, do we need to have more women in the leadership role than the men? I think at the end of the day, agriculture has more to do with, okay, bring all the ideas you can get as much as possible to the table and see where you can best feature these ideas such that you have maximum impact. So I don't think agriculture is that kind of sector where it's like, oh, it's an advantage to have more women or it's an advantage to have more men in leadership position. Yes, maybe in one or two cases where you want to make certain policies that would favor women, yes. But I think overall, agriculture does not see gender the way maybe some other sectors we see gender as an issue. Agriculture doesn't. So personally for me, and I think this was a private chat we had before this call, I had said, you know what, even in this space, I am learning, I'm trying to know the people, I'm trying to understand the space as I go along. So I can't really say, okay, maybe within this space, this is one man or one woman that I look up to or that I see that, okay, he's making great strides and we need more women or we need, I at least I haven't gotten to that level yet and I haven't seen that as much as a need. All I see right now is that there are lots of deficiencies in our system that need to be corrected. So for me, I think right now it's not so much about if we need more women in the leadership role in agriculture or not. But then another thing I can put to the fore is that if you look at the Ministry of Agriculture, Lagos State, I think there are some phenomenal women there, and I will mention them. So the Director of Fisheries, for instance, Mrs. Emokpa, she's doing a fantastic job running the Department of Fisheries. I mean, last year, I don't know if you came around for the Seafood Festival, it was fantastic. You have the Director of Agric Business, Mrs. Gonzalo, making great strides, also trying to ensure that our farmers are accessing the loans from the federal government. You have, you have fantastic ladies at the forefront. You have Mrs. Ayade, who is running the Agri Services Department, which runs the School Agric program and some other programs there. So you have great women actually who are in leadership roles. They may not be in the kind of roles or the level at which you want them, but I want to believe that across all the ministries we have in agriculture in Nigeria, from Lagos State to Ogun, or Oyo to Osun to Nasarawa to wherever, you have women making their little contributions, which would definitely go a long way in taking agriculture to where we want it to be.
Thank you. I think before we wrap up, I would like, I just exited Instagram because people were asking to see your face and it wasn't coming up. So I want you to go back on and then I will come into your video. That time.
Okay, so I'm going back live.
Yes.
I mean, this is just, okay, so I'm going back live now. I don't understand what's happening. Like I said, the Instagram gods are not with me. So maybe they don't like my face. Maybe because I chose not to join Instagram all these years. So
are you live already?
So yes, I'm live now.
Oh yes, I see you. I'm watching you now. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I see you now. Yes. Where is that? So you can add me to the. It didn't give me a chance to request, but
Okay, hold on.
yeah. I just requested now.
Yes.
Okay, so my final question is, or my semi-final question is, what advice would you give to young people that want a career in agriculture?
What advice would I give the young people that what?
Wants a career in agriculture.
That want a career in agriculture. Okay, so what advice would I give? I think, see, the thing is, we need to stop looking at agriculture as agriculture. It is a business. It's the same way you go into being a furniture maker. And so that's just the same. At the end of the day, the bottom line is you want to make money. It's a transaction. You produce something, you rear something because the end game is you want to sell it to make a profit. It's the same way someone will go into furniture making to make the furniture, to sell, to make a profit. So that has to be at the back of anyone's mind. You are going into business. So the fundamentals of how to run a business should first of all be what you should learn, the skill set needed to run a business, to run an enterprise. So the economics of it, you need to understand. Now, what makes agriculture a bit peculiar is the fact that you are dealing with maybe live animals or you're dealing with plant-based food items like vegetables and crops. So what this means is you put something into the ground, you have to water it, you have to put the necessary maybe fertilizers around it to ensure that it grows well. Then you get your output, how to store it so that you don't have post-harvest loss, how to transfer it to the market where you now sell it or get even the buyers to buy from you and for you to make a profit. I think that's where the nitty-gritty of agriculture comes in, because some people are not able to calculate effectively what they invested versus what outcome they get, how they sell, and how to calculate profit, because so many things have gone into the production in the first place and getting it to market. So what it means is for you to get into agriculture, you need to understand all these basics. And like I said earlier also, yield is critical. The higher your yield, using the lowest possible amount of resources, the better your profit margins, meaning you now have to be more effective in terms of your production, your productivity levels have to be really high. You have to try to use the best agricultural practices, and maybe you have to use the best of technology as well. So these are the things that make agriculture a bit peculiar going into as a business, which is why sometimes funding can be a bit difficult, getting funding from the banks, because they feel like going into agriculture, it's like going into a black hole. You can't really tell whether this person will be successful or not, because going into agriculture now, it's not only so much about the forces that are under your control. A lot of things are also outside of your control. If there's a climate change effect right now, maybe you were expecting it to rain and automatically something happens and there's now a drought. It means everything you have labored for becomes zero. Or you assume that, okay, the weather will be good now and then there's a heavy downpour of rain and your land becomes flooded. So these are peculiarities that agriculture has that maybe some other businesses do not have. So for you to come into the field or to the sector, you must be well prepared to harness or harvest the risk the same way you harvest the profit. So these factors have to be put into the balance such that you know that, okay, I'm coming into this, but the risk and the possible profits, it's up to you to now decide if this is really something that you like to get into. So I think at the end of the day, this now has to do with maybe the kind of passion you have about it as well. You can go into some other businesses and whether you make a loss, you make a profit, you can take it. Agriculture, not necessarily. So you must have that passion in the first place for agriculture for you to be able to say, okay, regardless of the outcome, I'm still fine with it. But I think more importantly in agriculture now, it's critical that you partner with people who are also successful in their own right, who have shown proof of concept with what they have done with the little they've had for a greater chance of having a better outcome. So I think that's actually very critical. And then you have a lot of these technological Agric companies. I don't know whether to say they are fintech now for Agric. You have the likes of Farm Crowdy, you have the likes of Thrive Agric, you even have Cellulant, you have Effects. These are aggregators. Farm Crowdy and Thrive Agric, they are more like crowdfunding startups or crowdfunding tech companies, where you can maybe put your foot in the water without having to swim the whole ocean, just to be sure whether Agric is for you. So it just gives you the opportunity to invest in someone's farm, and then the profits afterwards are shared. So I think there are a lot of ideas, there are a lot of companies coming up now where you can maybe put your skin in the game just a little bit to try it out, see whether this is what you are passionate about and this is what you like to do in the long run. So I think that's how Agric is evolving, and we see that on an ongoing basis. So for me, generally speaking, just look at it as any other business. Do your homework very well, do your research, and then God will help you. That's all I can say.
Final question from me, and people will not forgive me if I don't answer this question. They've really been asking me about it. You and your team and the Honorable Commissioner are responsible for palliatives, distribution, production, management, everything in Lagos. People are saying they also want palliative. Who and who can get palliative? How can we get it? And what's your comments on that?
Dayo, I'm a bit surprised that talking about palliative now. I thought lockdown had been eased. Anyway, not to take away from your question. So I believe, okay, so let me start with the history of the Lagos State Emergency Food Response Initiative. It was flagged off by Mr. Governor on the 27th of March 2020. The idea behind it was, okay, if Lagos had said, okay, you know what, people stay at home. That was on the 23rd of March. We felt like it would be critical to try to at least ease or alleviate the sufferings of the people with regards to the effect of the stay-at-home order. And we felt like, okay, we've seen it all over the news, China, what was happening in Europe. It was affecting mostly the elderly, the vulnerable in society, the handicapped, physically challenged. These were the easiest group of people that were going down by the coronavirus. So we felt like, okay, what can we do here in Lagos? And then Mr. Governor had said, you know what, let's try and target 200,000 households first, which means a household constituting at least 6 people, so 1.2 million people. And then let's see what we can do for them. And then the idea was, okay, you give each household 5 kilograms of curry, 5 kilograms of rice, 3 kilograms of beans, some tomato paste, pepper mix, and bread. And we went out and started this. And I believe, yes, it didn't go round, obviously. When I say 200,000 households, meaning 1.2 million people, and you have over 24 million people living in Lagos, meaning about 4 million households. 200,000 households out of 4 million is just 5% of the population of Lagos. Yes, it's very small, but no one has done it before. Even in the time of Ebola, there was nothing like a food palliative done. So it's not like we had an exemplar to go by. It's not like we had a previous template to follow. All we could do was, okay, this is what we have before us, and we need to get this food items out there as quickly as possible. And we had only 2 days to plan all of this. To procure beans. Lagos, we don't grow beans in Lagos. You have to procure the beans. Gari, how much gari do we really make in Lagos? You have to procure some of the gari as well. Rice, yes, we had some later, so we were fortunate enough. That helped us to kickstart immediately. And then we had to also move out to get some of our bakeries in partnership with the Lagos State Coconut Development Authority to quickly bake for us some loaves of bread. So it took only 2 days for us to plan all of this and to set things in motion. So obviously, like I said, 200,000 souls out of 4 million is just roughly about 5%. So it's to show you that, yes, the palliative number one wasn't meant for everyone because we cannot feed everybody. It was meant for the elderly, the vulnerable, the physically challenged, the handicapped, And yes, I think I have mentioned that. So that was what, or these were the set of people the palliatives were meant for. But as agitations started to arise, because the lockdown was not extended by Mr. President, obviously the youth also started, agitating and like, hey, we are hungry, we need to get out there. And there was only one other way for the lockdown to really be effected so that transmission rates could be as low as possible. And that was when Mr. Governor had flagged off the food kitchen initiative. Like, okay,
Yes.
this locality, let's look for a mama put or a canteen where they normally cook food, give them the money for cook for a set number of guys or the youth on for each day, such that okay, at least they have somewhere to go and eat one meal a day. And I think the effect of that was in the last 2 weeks before the lockdown was lifted on Monday, obviously, you could see also that it helped because then the tensions were down somewhat. So in a way, it kind of, and even though Mr. Governor had said, yes, 200,000 households, that was palliative, we ended up doing over 440,000 because aside the fact that we used the CDCs, that's the community development councils and the CDAs, community development associations, we also used groups. So when I talk about groups, we are talking of the military, the paramilitary groups, we are talking about the ethnic group, South-South group, Southeast group, Indigo group, Arewa group. We're talking about the religious community, Muslim, Christian, and the traditional groups. You're talking about the even the universities, the tertiary institutions, Unilag, AOECD, and so on and so forth, LASU. And I mean, there were groups, even the pensioners also, we gave some of them. Loma, we gave to Loma, and we gave so many groups like that across board. So net, we reached over 440,000 households. And we are still counting because as I speak to you, we keep receiving donations from the private sector and from other good individuals who deem it fit to donate to the efforts of the Lagos state government. And there are still plans on the way to push out these food items to the vulnerable in the communities. So that's how it's been so far. And I believe that for those that are asking, like, oh, how do we get palliatives and all, we set up a call center. It was all over the social media pages where we had put phone numbers for the different local governments. We had, I think, about 10. Anyone in that particular local government could call such that they could give us their contact details. And in fact, that we instituted that when we started those on the LASRA database. And people were giving feedback, and we reached out to them. So even those that were not even on the LASRA database for those 60 years and above that responded to our SMSs, we still gave them food.
Ladies and gentlemen, Abisola Olusanya, Special Advisor to the Governor of Lagos State on Agriculture. Thank you so much for your insights and for the time that you shared. It was great to hear from you and to also have a deeper understanding on the work of Mr. Governor in terms of agricultural development in Lagos State. And also, we celebrate you. Adedoyin Ezekiel said, what an intimidating profile of a young lady. Nice one, Honorable Abisola. Thank you, Adedoyin, for your comment. For the Honorable, a lot of people are very grateful for the time and your insight. We know that the governor has an amazing team, and it's such a pleasure to be able to showcase some of the people that the governor has working for him, like yourself, for working with him to make Lagos a 21st century mega city. We hope that when we call on you again, you will join us. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, and we pray that Instagram favors us next time. Instagram did not favor us yesterday. It didn't favor us today. So I think we need to appease the gods of Instagram.
Oh, Instagram, yes, absolutely. Yes. But I'm sure that all our viewers on Facebook and YouTube are all excited. Over 5 Facebook accounts. And this is going to be available for everyone to watch again later on YouTube. Just Google Abisola Olusanya on YouTube. Search it. You should see this video there. Thank you so much, Madam Special Advisor.
Thank you, Dayo.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, bye.